Hi everyone, this is Dr. Alyssa Gayung-Vang, and today I'd like to talk to you about how to cope with or manage through the anxiety or the uncertainty related to COVID-19. These last few weeks have been extremely challenging and difficult for people all around the world, including Americans, because of this pandemic. We've had to make extreme adjustments to life as we've known it. This has led to unprecedented times, like closing of schools, closing of dining in for restaurants and bars, people having to work from home, or having to stay home, or not having a job anymore, and in shortages of consumer goods like toilet paper and rice. The rapidly changing unknowns of the coronavirus in many ways have put us in this fight or flight mode as we scramble to understand what it is, as we try to protect ourselves and prepare for the unknown. By now, we're a few weeks into COVID-19, and for many, we're slowly adjusting to the changes. The initial focus on the physical health components that has put us into this survival mode have been addressed or dealt with to some degree or another. So questions like, what is COVID-19? How do I know that I have it? What are the symptoms? How do I deal with it? What do I do when I have the symptoms? How do I protect myself? These things have been addressed to some degree. So now we know that we should wash our hands for 20 seconds and frequently. We know not to touch our face. We know that we should keep a distance of 6 feet from other people. We know that we should not congregate in groups of 10. These are the things that we now know. And as we adjust to this unprecedented routine of minimizing in-person contact, of self-quarantining ourselves in this home, this is a time when perhaps as we're settling in, our minds may begin to wander, we may begin to overthink, and our emotions might begin to get the best of us, perhaps even evoking feelings of anxiety or depression. And in moments like this, when we're feeling like we're in survival mode, it's very easy to neglect, minimize, or overlook our mental health. And so that's why I want to talk about how do we cope with this. COVID-19 is an enemy that is contagious, faceless, and we don't know a lot about. So this creates a lot of stress for people because human beings like to know what we're faced against. And we thrive on feeling like we're in control, and we thrive on feeling like we are competent. And so when there's uncertainty, this creates this feeling of helplessness and powerlessness, which causes us to feel nervous and scared. And in this phase of certainty, we want to believe that things will turn out okay, and we want to believe that we can do something about it. And when that's not possible, such as this pandemic, our level of anxiety increases. And certainly now, more than ever, as we're moving into even more days of self-quarantining, even more days of being stuck at home with an increased sense of social isolation, our anxiety might be more pronounced, especially as we begin to experience this loss, a sense of loss over the things that we've come accustomed to. During this time of greater uncertainty, heightened anxiety, and feelings of helplessness, we naturally want to focus on what we can control because that helps us to manage our emotions better. And focusing on what we can control is definitely very helpful. And it's especially helpful when we feel like things are spiraling out of control. And so when we focus on what we can control, yes, that is moving us in the right direction of coping with the unknown, but it has its limits. So I'd like to suggest that rather than focus on what we can control, that I want us to shift from this notion of control to choice. So asking ourselves, what can I choose in this situation that is out of my control might feel more encouraging and more empowering. So for example, you might respond by saying, I choose to focus on the facts. I choose to remain calm and logical. I choose to limit my exposure to the news from 1 or 2 reliable sources. I choose to focus on what's important to me at this time. Once we move into the space of choice, we're now stepping into a more thoughtful, wise, compassionate perspective for the things that are beyond our control, like this pandemic. And this kind of thinking, this kind of mindset might give us the freedom and the flexibility and permission to re-engage and make choices that are consistent with what's important to us, with our values, and with our goals. And it helps move us into a space of peace and calm that allows us to surrender the fact that we can do our best, but we cannot do it all. It does take courage to surrender our fears and our plans. It takes courage to release this control, this need for predictability. But to hold on would only create more tension and more stress and more anxiety. And when we step into this space of courage and we open our hearts and our minds, this will make way for a fresh perspective and new insights. And it will allow our minds to be free for creative, flexible, and adaptive thinking. In fact, I'm really encouraged because I'm witnessing this happening on social media with people I know and around the world. So as an example of this adaptability, this creative thinking, specific to social connections, people are now meeting through Zoom or Facebook Messenger. So there is now this virtual connection through social media and through the internet. I myself have benefited from this. I have connected with my family virtually. We play virtual games. We're going to learn how to cook new dishes in our own kitchens together. And in fact, the other night, I joined a group of friends doing Zumba virtually. This would not have happened if not for the pandemic. So there's a silver lining for you there. The bottom line, though, is that we are social beings, and staying socially connected is, in positive ways, has been shown to be important to our mental health, to life satisfaction, and to our quality of life. And it's also shown to be a critical buffer to anxiety and depression. So this commitment to doing things virtually, connecting with friends virtually, would not have happened if it had not been for the pandemic, because we would have taken our time together for granted, and we would have all have been too busy to make time for one another. So I hope that this video and this small example related to asking yourself, what can I choose in this situation, has been helpful in a small way to keep the hope alive that humanity will be okay once this is all said and done. And I hope that this has been helpful in knowing that together we can combat this. Please continue to stay healthy and continue to stay safe. Thank you.